Hi, I'm Wayne Tuttle, and welcome to Chasing Legends. Welcome back to Chasing Legends. Please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the notification bell. Leave a comment if you got a comment. Check out our website, www.legendsthesuperstitionmountains.com. So, on to today's story. Today's story, most people would know by a number of different names, possibly. The individual's name is really Van Ashmore. He's known as Starr Daley in this story, and it's a story that's been told by a number of different people. It's always reported that he was 26. I think the death certificate says he was 24. It doesn't really matter. This story takes place in 1917, and it's a gentleman named James Roy Gibson, and his wife, on May 4th, are traveling back from Globe. His wife's name's Florence. And they're going back home to Tucson. They were visiting and had family in Globe. And Gibson, on the way home, decides, well, they're going to stop halfway and camp one night out in the open stars in the desert. Weather's probably perfect for it. So about 20 miles outside of Mesa, they pull over off Apache Trail, go down a road a ways, find a nice camp spot. He worked as a wholesale groceryman for a company out of Texas. Background and stuff. Anyhow, so they pull over, they set up, cook dinner. They're sitting out there, nice fresh air, probably a very pleasant night. And a man comes riding up on a horse. The man is known as Starr Daley. Real name Van Ashmore, but Starr Daley pulls up. His horse is lathered. Daley looks like he's been riding like the devil's chasing him. Gibson is concerned for the horse and the man and realizes they need water. They need to rest. So he tells him, get on down from there. I'll get you and the horse some water. Wanting to take 10 to the man. Daley gets off his horse, grabs his rifle, and as Gibson's walking to go get them water, shoots him 3-4 times from behind in the head, killing him. And so Florence, completely just blown away, like, what has just happened? Who is this guy? What's going on? Daley turns to her and tells her, stop what you're doing. Blah, blah, blah. Daley continues from that point forward to assault her and rape her all through the night, repeatedly, with Mr. Gibson's body just laying there on the ground the whole time. The next morning, and I don't know if he got any sleep, tied her up, but then he tells Florence, you're going to make me breakfast. I need breakfast before we go this morning. She's, what? She makes him breakfast. Obviously, he has a rifle. Who knows what kind of condition she's in. Not very good. And so she makes him breakfast, and when she's done with the breakfast, he tells her, you're going to pack everything up into the car, and we're going to get out of here and head out of here. And Florence, at that point, between the assaults, the rape, the killing of her husband, everything else, just the bizarre nature of this, tells him, no. I will only do what you say. We will take my husband's body, put it in the car, and we will take him and drop him off at a funeral parlor someplace where they can take care for him, treat him respectably. Realizing she doesn't care and stuff, and for whatever reason, Daley appears to be, he could have just shot Florence and taken off. I don't know if he needed the hostage or what the heck's going on, but decides to agree with her. So she packs everything. They get everything packed. They're driving down the road. They get about halfway to town, just outside of town. The car runs out of gas. They get over on the side of the road. Things are pretty desperate at that point. Daley tells Florence, I'll be back. I'm going to flag someone down. I'll get a ride. I'll get us some gas. Then I'll come back and we'll get him in. We'll drop him off. Don't understand why she would even believe him for a second, or why he would think she would believe him. But he gets a ride and he goes to get gas. Soon as he's gone, Florence is out of the car and waiting for a vehicle, and she flags them down, tells them, shows them what's happened and what's going on. They immediately get her in very quickly, and they notify someone who calls the sheriff or the town marshal, Marshal Paxton. So Marshal Paxton gets a group of men together, and they come out and they wait. Daley shows up with the gas. I guess he had to walk some distance or something went on, but Daley gets back. The marshal and all his men are waiting for him and immediately arrest him. They bring him into town. Daley confesses to the whole thing. Says, in fact, the reason he has the rifle is he committed 2 other armed robberies, like in Missouri and Oklahoma or someplace. He's been constantly on the run, amidst to the assaults and the rape, the killing of Mr. Gibson, and has no problem with any of it. So Friday is when it happens. This is Saturday. They immediately call a jury together, and he is found guilty because of his admission of guilt, I guess. But this Saturday, the 5th. So the 5th, he's found guilty, and that's it, and it's all done. And so they put him in the jail, lock him up. Well, what happens is in the evening, crowds start to gather because the news has got out what's happened. At first, there's about 50 to 100 people. Then there's 200 people. And then the mob, as the evening goes, gets larger and larger. Well, the town sheriff realizes he cannot hold this mob off. He's trying to tell them to disperse. He doesn't have the deputies. He's not going to put someone in harm's way. So he finally decides he's going to get Daley, who's already been convicted, get him to Florence. So he figures he'll get him in a couple cars with some deputies. They'll take him an armed escort, get him down to Florence, and get him locked up there, safe. This does not work because the crowd gets around, they have cars, and the mob has guns. So they end up with 300 to 400 people, and the cars can barely move, and they're getting nowhere, and finally they get the policemen to stop. They hold them at gunpoint. Daley comes out, no problem. He just gets out of the car like, okay, whatever. He's handcuffed. He has the handcuffs on him. They put him in another car, and they take him back to the site where they believe he had committed these atrocities or nearby it. Find an electrical pole nearby, and they get a car for him to stand on. Well, in fact, one of the things, not reported most often, is they didn't know how to tie a noose, but Daley knew how to tie a noose. So Daley instructed them and worked with them to tie the noose properly so that his neck would break when they pulled the car off of underneath him. He wanted that done so he'd die instantly. He didn't want to strangle himself for that. And they allowed him to do this. So they got him up in the car. They get the noose around his neck. They put him up. Meanwhile, the Arizona governor has been notified, and he sends his lieutenants and a bunch of people out in cars that the mob has waylaid the police department, got this guy, and they've taken him out, and they're getting ready to hang him. The lieutenants get there too late. The mob goes to hang him, asks him if he has any last words. He says something like, I don't know, God, what do you say? And then the entire crowd of several hundred people start reciting the Lord's Prayer. When they finish, they pull the car out, and Daley's hung. Once they realize he's dead, crowd just disperses. They leave him hanging from the electrical utility pole. There's pictures. You can find them. His body just hanging there. The lieutenants show up. The crowd is completely gone. There's no one there anymore. The body's just hanging from this light pole. They just look at it, realize what it is. They get the sheriff come out. They all go out. They bury him somewhere right near there. So he's buried next to the pole he was hung on. Kind of an interesting story. Very early statehood of Arizona. But the vigilante justice like this happened quite a bit for anything that was like this atrocious. Not much else to side note. Most of the information on this, most people here, comes from Brownie Holmes, who said he was there. Brownie Holmes was driving what's called a stage, but it was like a car or van that hauled people around. And at that time, 1917, so he had pulled up to watch what was happening, and one of the deputies told him, you're going to get in trouble, one, for the place you work, because you're here with the vehicle, and you're going to be recognizable. And it's just going to be obvious. Someone gets a picture, you're going to be in there, and you're going to be held accountable in all this. So Brownie says he was there, but then he said he left. Tom Collenborn talked about it, that Brownie had said he was there. I don't know if he witnessed the actual hanging or not. In some cases it implies that he did, some not. But that's usually the sources everybody gives you, is Tom Collenborn's article based on a lot of Brownie's information. There is a lot more information because the story did hit nationwide, even to Australia. And it made the newspapers because of his assault and rapes. Just the pure sadistic nature of just him cold-bloodedly just shooting the man that was going to get him water and help him. It's kind of, Daley never made any excuses for any of it. So, yeah, I killed him. Yes, I shot him while he was getting me water. So we don't know, other than Starr Daley was just a very, very bad man, is all we can come up with that. So that's the story. Van Ashmore, Starr Daley, back in May of 1917. And if you do find that location, I don't know if there's a marker. There's probably something marking that, because it's kind of a well-known story. But you go out there, and you're out in that area, I'm sure there's something there that marks it. That being said and done, rendezvous, Dutch Hunter Rendezvous, November 14th, 15th, and 16th of this year, 2025. Not much else to talk about. We're coming into the summer heat. The walks are going to get shorter, they're going to get earlier, and then they're just going to go next to nothing. We'll see what comes the rest of the summer, but we'll try to bring you some more stories like that, and then get back into a little more background stories and some historic stuff. But we'll see what we got through the summer with Chasing Legends. Thank you for subscribing to our channel. Thank you for all the time you take into it. And I hope you've lasted this long to last to the end, because you know what I finish up saying every week. But this week, my mother-in-law is actually related to a man named Ed Farhat. Ed Farhat, for anyone who knows, was known as the Sheik out of Michigan. He was a really famous wrestler. But today that we're filming this, I just got the news that the Sheik's nephew, who's another wrestler that you might know, named Terry Brunk. But Terry Brunk passed away today. And Terry Brunk was one of my favorites. I remember watching ECW. And you probably do too if you remember his name. But he was always known as Sabu. And Sabu the Elephant Boy originally. But anyways, rest in peace, Sabu, because that was one incredible person. If you want to talk about a man that was all go and no breaks, that was Sabu back in the day, the barbed wire matches and stuff like that. Anyhow, so rather than our normal entry out, we will do Sabu's to close things out tonight. So, Sabu, this one's for you. Sabu, Sabu. All right, everybody have a great week. We'll catch you next time on Chasing Legends.